Hello everyone, welcome to the another session of Digital Signal Processing. I am Aruna Tyagi, Assistant Professor at Ajay Kumar Garg Engineering College. So today we'll be discussing another topic, that is the bilinear transformation, which is the part of the last session. In the last session we had discussed about another transformation technique that is called as impulse invariant transformation. So in that transformation we had seen there was certain limitation. One of the biggest limitation was that my signal was getting distorted because of having one factor which was arising because of that transformation called as aliasing. So we'll try to remove that particular limitation of impulse invariant transformation using this method, which is called as bilinear transformation. So here in this transformation we'll try to carry out the conformal mapping. That means whenever we are moving towards one domain to another domain, we'll be preserving the phase and the angles, but there may be slight variation in the length of the values of that particular graph. So this is a mapping where we'll be using this kind of mapping, which is conformal. And as soon as we move from the analog domain being represented by omega, it has to be mapped into the Z domain. So here what we'll see that whatever mapping we are performing, that would be 1-to-1 as compared to the mapping that we have in the case of impulse invariant transformation, where mapping was many-to-one. And that was the reason for this issue that was called as aliasing in the impulse invariant transformation. So that case of many-to-one mapping that was appearing in the case of impulse invariant transformation, that is now being converted into 1-to-1 mapping, and because of this process this issue of aliasing would be removed when we transform the analog filter structure or analog transfer function using this bilinear transformation. And again, whenever using this kind of transformation, the left hand side of this particular S plane would come inside the unit circle. That means my system would remain stable. The same stability that we were observing in impulse invariant transformation, that would be observed in the bilinear transformation as well. So how this method is being working? So here in this case we'll be transforming the analog filter function, that is my HAS, directly into HZ. That means I am jumping directly from my S domain to Z domain without coming back into the time domain. So this kind of transformation seems to be a bit simpler as compared to impulse invariant transformation. But again, we would have certain kind of limitation for this particular method as well, which is known as frequency warping. We'll be discussing about this limitation once we cover this transformation method. And then we'll also see that this particular limitation, which is frequency warping, can be removed with another method which is called as pre-warping. So what this method is all about, bilinear transformation. If I consider this particular transfer function, first order transfer function, I would try to realize this transfer function to Z domain, directly into the Z domain, that is my HZ. So the series of steps which are being followed here are, this transfer function HS is being represented as the ratio of the output variable and the input variable, that is XS. Then I am simply cross multiplying these two numerators and denominator and forming a simplified equation which I can see has the factor of S. So this S domain function is now brought back into the T domain, time domain function, with uses of the inverse Laplace transform. So this normal equation, which I can denote it as say first equation, I am applying inverse Laplace transform and coming into this differential equation. This particular differential equation now has to be integrated in a time limit, that is nt minus t to nt. That means I am using one sample period to integrate this transfer function which I have represented in the time domain. Here, looking at this equation as three parts, this is a simple integration. Here I would have to apply a different form of integration, the part 2 and the part 3. So in this and this, I'll be using special kind of integration technique that is called as the trapezoidal rule of the numerical integration. This particular rule states that I am integrating a function at in a limit nt minus t to nt, that is equivalent to t by t, a of nt, the sample value nt, plus a of nt minus t. So this is a direct substitution formula which we can use to substitute here in the part 1 and part 2, so that I can give a simplified integration result of this equation. So once I substitute this equation in part 1 and part 2 and integrate normally the first section, the simplified equation I represent as y of nt minus y of nt minus t, which is the normal integration, and at by 2 y of nt plus at by 2 y of nt minus t is corresponding to this part when we apply trapezoidal rule, and here is the second part of integration. Once I receive this integration, I am almost halfway for converting my S plane and going forward for the Z plane. So after the rearrangement of this equation, if I have to calculate this ratio yz by xz, that means I would be taking the Z transform of this particular equation, and after rearrangement I would be receiving this particular function, which is being represented as b by divided by 2 by t 1 minus z inverse 1 plus z inverse plus a. This is almost similar to the standard equation with which we had started this derivation. This was the first case from which we started this transformation, and we have reached over here. So we need to compare these two equations, the step 1 and the last obtained step. The numerators are same. This part of the denominator is similar. So I can see that this factor s in the analog domain and this factor which I have obtained in my z domain, they are mapping towards each other. I can say I can simply equate these two, saying that my s is equal to 2 by t 1 minus z inverse divided by 1 plus z inverse factor. So this is a mapping that I achieve after bilinear transformation. So whenever I need to convert my analog function hs into the function hz, I need to resubstitute this variable s in my transfer function with this kind of value, and I would directly jump into the z domain, or I would be able to create an digital IIR filter transfer function from the analog transfer function. So once we have find out the relationship between s or z, next step is finding the relationship between two frequency, the frequency of analog function and the frequency of the digital function. So beginning with this relationship between s and z, what do I see here? I need to make certain kind of mathematical permutation. Moving from rectangular coordinate to the polar coordinate, I would obtain a relationship of these two frequencies, that is digital omega and analog omega. So here what I see, I know that my z plane can be represented in the form of r, that is my radius of the unit circle. I also know that this variable s is represented as sigma plus j omega. That is nothing but my planes, the s plane being represented by sigma and j omega, and my z plane being represented with this radius r. So I'll simply substitute these representation of z and s, and I'll see what is being happening here. R e raised to the power j omega here, and r e raised to the power j omega here. And this exponential I know can be better represented into trigonometrical function as sin x and cos x as well. So changing the representation again, I would be representing this s in the form of this format, that is my trigonometrical function. Both of these are representing the same system function. Now this particular part, I can see this is the first section of this particular representation, which is called as the real part, and the second part, which is with this imaginary element, this is called as the imaginary part of this particular representation. And I know that this s is also having this real part and this imaginary part. So I need to simply equate these two equations, as when I represent my S as sigma plus j omega, then sigma being representing this section and this angular frequency representing this section. So from this representation, I have made the realization of two parts, that is the real one and the imaginary one. And from these two sections, we would have certain important conclusion which would give me certain useful information about this bilinear transformation. So I know from the mapping of the S plane and R plane, I know that for a stable system, all the poles should lie inside the unit circle. So radius has to be less than equal to 1. And in the S plane, whenever I am mapping, I know that all the poles should be on the left hand side of the plane. The similar condition are being representing here, that if R is less than 1, my sigma is less than 0, that is this part of my S plane. If it is greater than 1, sigma is greater than 0. So in these two parts of the given equation, I'll substitute these values and see what is the result. So once I substitute my R is equal to 1, the simplified expression is this. Trigonometrically, I would try to represent it into another format. Sine can be written as 2 sine omega by 2 cos omega by 2. 1 can be represented by square of sine and cosine. And cos omega can be represented by cos square x minus sine square x. So this is another form of representation. And from here, I can conclude that these two frequencies are related to each other by this particular relationship, the analog frequency and the digital frequency. Or if I need to take another permutation, digital frequency is twice tangent inverse of scaled frequency in the analog domain by t by 2. So here what do I see? That these relationships are related by my tangent function, which would have certain kind of consequences as well. So here, what is frequency warping? From this relationship that we have just derived between omega and angular frequency, I would see that there is a problem which is existing over here. Whenever we have this kind of relationship that we achieved in impulse invariant transformation, I had seen that these two frequencies are linearly related. If I make this t as 1 second for my simplification, I see that this omega becomes equal to omega of angular domain. But whenever there is a tangent function, there would be another kind of non-linearity. For this kind of relationship, this kind of graph, I am obtaining the appearance of my response of a system. Now because of the introduction of the tangent function, there would be certain kind of non-linearities added to the system. So the system response would be bent towards either expanding the frequencies. If this domain is one particular domain representing frequencies, either they would be compressed or they would be expanding depending upon the system introducing the non-linearity. So whatever tangent function we have obtained because of this bilinear transformation, this is responsible for adding this kind of bend into the curve, making my response to be non-linear. This is the phenomenon to which I say frequency warping. So I need to remove this particular phenomena by a method which is called as pre-warping. So what I have to do is the digital IIR filter with the same cutoff frequency as omega c. This is to be designed, and we'll be designing an analog filter with a cutoff frequency that maps to omega c after bilinear transformation. That means if I want to have a frequency omega c which I desire at my output, I would begin with certain different frequency and then apply bilinear transformation so that resultant frequency is omega c, which is same as the desired one. So I have to scale down or change the input frequency of the system in such a way that I receive desired frequency output. This process is called as pre-warping. So we have to warp the frequency in the analog domain. So here in this diagram, I can see that this first bended curve is something which is a result of bilinear transformation. This is something that I desired, a linear curve, and this is something which would be resulted because of my pre-warping function. Let me name it as 3. So I need to work with these values of curve 3 in analog domain when I am creating my IR filter, and then when I transform these frequencies using bilinear transformation into Z domain or in digital domain, I would obtain a curve which appears like graph 2. Or in a simple language, if I want output say 6, I know that my system reduces this output or changes this output by say a factor of -2. So I would input to a system a value which is 8. So desired value 6 would be obtained. So changing the input is something which we call as pre-warping, changing of input in such a direction that whatever effect is there for the bilinear transformation, that would be cancelled out. So what we are performing with the bilinear transformation, I know this is the particular representation of two frequencies related to each other by this particular tangent function. So what we perform during pre-warping? In pre-warping, we input the desired frequency omega c, change these frequency to analog frequency, different analog frequency which we were giving to the system, and these new frequencies would be used in the designing. So ultimately the output that I received whenever I apply bilinear transformation to this pre-warp frequency, I get my desired response which is not warped. So with this bilinear transformation, what I have seen that a new problem was arising which is called as warping, and with the help of this pre-warping method, I have converted or I have removed that particular limitation. So my output is free from aliasing, for which we have created this particular technique, and also using this pre-warping technique I get an output which is unwarped. So both the limitations are removed, so we feel that this bilinear transformation is more suitable for converting or transforming the analog system function to the digital one. So let us see some numerical problems that how when we want to implement this transformation to an analog function. So here the analog function is my 2 over s plus 1 s plus 3. I need to use bilinear transformation, and this sampling time period is given to be 0.1 second. So this is direct substitution. S has to be converted into Z. So whatever relationship we have derived in the previous slide would be used for the substitution. I know that S is equal to 2 by T Z minus 1 divided by Z plus 2. So wherever I can find S in my analog domain, I have to simply substitute this relationship here and simplify this representation to obtain a similar transfer function in the digital domain, which is representing the same transfer function in my analog domain. So this is far more simpler as compared to my impulse invariant transformation. Another twist in this numerical can be like, this is a given transfer function. Along with that, I am giving certain frequency value that the resonant frequency of the digital filter should be omega by pi. That means I already know the desired frequency of the digital filter as pi by 4. What I need to deduce from the given equation is the analog frequency. So I have to find out that analog frequency from the given formula, and I can relate this expression by a standard expression which is used for transformation, that is s plus a divided by s plus a square and b square. This b is nothing but the frequency of that particular system. So this particular frequency would be derived from this constant value 9. So this omega square is equal to 9. So this omega comes out to be 3. So now I know both the frequencies, digital frequency as well as analog frequency. So if I have these two frequency, what left is in the relationship, I need to calculate the time period. And once I know the time period, I can make the direct substitution and convert this analog filter to the digital one. So this is a relationship between these two frequencies. The unknown factor is T. Substitute omega C, which is 3 here, omega R, which is given pi by 4 here, and calculate the value of T, which comes out to be 0.276 second. And after that, I would have direct substitution of S into the given transfer function. With simplification of this standard expression, I can see that this is the final digital system representation after bilinear transformation. Similarly, another digital frequency has been given to me, a digital filter with 3 dB bandwidth, which is given to be 0.25, is to be designed for this particular response. So 3 dB bandwidth is nothing but the maximum value which I obtained for this low pass filter, or I can say this particular point where I start achieving the transition band, or I sometimes call it as 1/√2 bandwidth point also. So this is nothing but given digital frequency that I desire, and analog frequency has to be come out from this given representation. So we do not have any numerical number corresponding to this, so we represent it by omega C. So representation is direct. This omega C and omega digital are related with this formula. I do not know the value of T, so either I can work directly with the T, or I can assume this T to be 1 second for my simplification of this particular numerical. So once I have calculated this analog frequency, which is related to time period of this particular system response function, I substitute S is equal to 2 by T, Z minus 1, Z plus 1 here at this particular place, and after rearrangement, this is my final IIR filter, which is digital in domain corresponding to this analog filter. So in bilinear transformation, I can see that if I know these two frequencies in the analog domain and digital domain, the substitution is direct and free from any kind of distortion or aliasing kind of limitations. This is all for this session. In the upcoming session, we'll be designing the IIR filter using one approximation method, which is called as Butterworth approximation. So that's all for this session. Thank you.